morning, all. My name's Senator Henry Stern. I have the honor of representing the community of Porter Ranch here. And we're out here to demand some modicum of justice. This community has been through too much for too many years, dating back to October of 2015, when we experienced the worst methane leak in U.S. history. Right here, the SoCalGas facility pushed over 10,000 families out of their homes, and people are still sick. People are still hurting, and they're searching for answers. We still don't know what happened at Aliso Canyon. We still don't know why these wells blew out. We still don't know why people are sick. We still don't know what chemicals were emitted from that facility. But just last week, a settlement was announced from the state and the county and the city to settle various legal disputes with the gas company. And with all due respect to my colleagues, and I know many people worked very hard on that deal, but it's not good enough for this community. When you're proposing to ship millions of dollars from the gas company outside of this community of Porter Ranch that has suffered so much, off to projects in the Central Valley for dairy digesters and other projects, a slush fund, if you will, that really brings nothing back to this community, we have to stand up and say no. We're going to say no. No! And this agreement is tentative. There's currently a comment period that is open until September 12th. And so today we're going to be commenting. Consider this a comment. It is insufficient to take any amount of money that came from this leak and push it outside this community. There are projects that we can be doing right here in the community of Porter Ranch and all throughout the LA region that will help remove that burden on the residents and the ratepayers by getting us off this dangerous gas field, not furthering our dependence on that. We need to electrify. We need to upgrade our homes. We need to improve our air conditioning, because God knows we need it out here, and they're old. Our utility bills are too high. The gas company jacked up our rates even during that incident, adding insult to injury. There is so much potential out here, and this community has already been through that process, working with the city of LA, working hard to develop a plan, and that plan was summarily dismissed. And that's unacceptable. So we hope that the parties involved with this agreement will see the opportunity here to improve this process and at least give this community a voice. At least allow us to compete for a project. At least don't give a sweetheart deal away to one or two companies off in the Central Valley when we think we have projects to offer too. Now, none of this is going to fix the ultimate problem, which is that we need to shut Aliso Canyon down. We still don't know what the seismic situation is out here, but all of you who have been through the Northbridge quake know all too well the risks are real. So hope is not a strategy, but we are crossing our fingers that nothing goes wrong. But in the meantime, let's give this community some modicum of justice. I'm honored to be joined by some incredible leaders here today who have been fearless since the start, and no one more so than Congressman Brad Sherman. Congressman Sherman was out here on the front lines when this well blew. He's been standing up to the Trump administration, who are rolling back natural gas safety standards as we speak. And I want to introduce him because he's a man of these people, of this community, and he doesn't live that far away. His family went through this. They suffered themselves. And we're so honored to have you here today, Congressman. So, Congressman, thank you.
Hello, I'm Congressman Brad Sherman, and I live just about as close as anyone to well SS-25. My family and I were affected. 8,000 families were displaced. Our neighbors across the street and next door, for example. I want to thank Henry Stern and everyone standing here for their efforts. And the word is never again. Having experienced the world's largest methane leak, we have to say never again. Not here, not anywhere in California, not anywhere in the country. But unfortunately, we have not seen the kinds of changes that are necessary. First, this facility, we're told, is too big to fail. SoCalGas has created a system where an entire megalopolis of 10 million people is told that if you shut down this facility even for a few days, the city goes dark. The air conditioners don't work. It's their system. I can't tell them that their system is better than his. What I can say is it's time to have a better system.
Yeah.
Yet nothing in this settlement says to do anything to make this city less dependent on this facility. Now, in fact, this facility is now up to, I believe, 34 billion cubic feet. During the leak, it was double that, and I am unfortunately sure that it is only a matter of time before SoCalGas tells us the whole city will have blackouts because we haven't done anything. Nobody made us do anything except to keep doing what we had been doing, and now we need 68 billion cubic feet stored in Aliso Canyon. We've got to reduce the pressure that's under this ground and reduce the pressure to use Aliso Canyon as the sole linchpin of energy here in the LA area. Second, we need subsurface safety valves. There was a subsurface safety valve on SS-25 in the 1950s. They took it out in 1979. They didn't replace it, and they still don't have subsurface safety valves. Dogger, the state agency, is coming down with pretty good regulations that will become effective this October. But they have a lot of wiggle room on that subsurface safety valve. If you can turn it off at the bottom, then you don't get the methane rising to the top. And finally, we need federal regulations, because no matter what we do here in California, no matter how good the bills are in Sacramento, never again means never again anywhere. So what happened? I talked to the President Obama. He assured me that he would adopt, and his administration would adopt, nationwide natural gas storage safety regulations. He came through in December of 2016 and regulations were issued. Not as strong as I would like, but the first regulations ever. And then in June 20th, 2017, a day that will live in infamy, President Trump withdrew the regulations. And a year later, that withdrawal became illegal because Congress had passed legislation requiring that we have nationwide regulations. So now they're in violation of law, not to mention common sense. And if you live anywhere outside of California, and this is not the largest facility in the country, I believe it's the 5th largest, that means you're subject to this happening near you, and there are no federal regulations at all. So we are demanding that the Obama regulations be reissued and then strengthened. Instead, President Trump seems to be on the wrong side, raising the issue of whether he is a volatile organic compound. So I look forward to working with people, particularly at the state level, to protect our community. And I look forward, I wish, the SS-25 is in a different congressional district, and I look forward someday to having a partner. All the evacuations were in my district, but the natural gas leak was in a different district. I look forward to having a partner who is not only the home of SS-25 and the rest of the natural gas wells, but a partner in Washington to force natural gas storage safety regulations nationwide. I now believe that I'm going to introduce the newest member of the California Assembly, a man who's been doing this, still has all his hair. But if you do this for a while, you will be pulling your hair out. My friend Jesse Gabriel.
Thank you, Congressman Sherman. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. As Congressman Sherman said, my name is Jesse Gabriel. I am the newest member of the California legislature. I represent the 45th Assembly District, which does not include Porter Ranch, but includes a lot of the communities here in the northwest San Fernando Valley that were most directly and significantly impacted by the Aliso Canyon blowout. I wanted to start just by thanking and acknowledging Congressman Sherman and Senator Stern for their leadership on these issues. As a father of young children in the valley, as an environmentalist and somebody who cares about our community, as a homeowner in the valley, I'm deeply grateful for the leadership that you have shown, along with Senator Hertzberg, for confronting these issues, for being on the front lines of it, and for really standing up for our community. So I think we owe them a big round of applause for everything. I want to broadly associate myself with their comments. I think that Senator Stern and Congressman Sherman expressed a lot of what I would like to express, but I just wanted to make a few little points. So the first is a little piece of context, and that is that there are some good parts to this settlement agreement, and that what Senator Stern and I are trying to do is not meant to be an attack on the Attorney General, on the City Attorney, on the other folks who worked on this. I was an attorney in private practice before I went to the legislature. I worked very closely with our Attorney General's office on a lawsuit against the Trump administration. It went up to the Supreme Court. They are fine public servants. They are people that care a lot and want to do the right thing. And what we have with them is a little bit of a disagreement about this proposed settlement. We think that there's a fundamental flaw, that there is a missing piece. And I think to folks here in the Valley, that missing piece is obvious. And so we believe that fundamentally that justice and fairness and equity require that we amend this settlement agreement, that we make sure that more of the benefits of this agreement come to folks here in the Valley, in our community, in this community, who are most directly impacted by the Aliso Canyon blowout. And so what we are going to do in connection with our partners at the federal level and at the local level is to really fight as hard as we can to change the terms of this settlement agreement, to make sure that it's modified, to use our relationships and our legislative power and the conversations that we can have to make sure that folks here in the Valley get the justice and the fairness that we deserve. That's what we are going to do. I just want to say I'm going to introduce my colleague, Senator Hertzberg here, who's a very accomplished legislator. But before I do, I want to say I look at this a lot through the eyes of a young father. I'm very blessed to have two very young kids. And in a lot of conversations that I had with folks as I've been going around this community, aside from the significant economic impacts that folks face from this and the inconvenience and everything else, all of the negative consequences that folks were forced to bear, the conversations that have pained me the most are the ones with parents who really have questions about what is this going to mean for my kids? And what is it going to mean for my kids in the long run? And what is this going to mean for my kids 20 years from now and 15 years from now? And so I believe as a young father, look, it's good that we have a health study, but we've got to get a lot more of that money back down here in the Valley immediately so that we can have environmental remediation immediately and this community can sleep better at night, because that is what we deserve. I am looking forward to partnering with this great community, with Congressman Sherman and Senator Stern and Senator Hertzberg. We're going to fight hard for this community, and it's my pleasure to introduce a very accomplished legislator, Senator Hertzberg.
The arguments have been made. I am here today to tell you that I join in this wall of state legislators that we will not bend. That the San Fernando Valley, in so many occasions that so many of us know over the years, has always received the short end of the stick. We have 2 million people represented here, and he's going to carry the weight on his back, our new legislator over here with our partner Brad Sherman from Congress, to not bend, to make sure that the deal is modified, to make sure that the resources are brought to the San Fernando Valley, to make sure that the community is protected. That's all. That's the message. That's why I stand here. Nothing further. Next case out.
It is rare you get a politician with that level of efficiency, but when Senator Hertzberg says it, he means it, and he's the chair of the Resources and Water Committee at the state level, which oversees jurisdictionally everything that happens underground. So we're counting on his partnership, this Valley partnership, but we really couldn't do it without the community. We work for the people here. We work for you, and so it's my honor to bring up somebody who has moved through this crisis with a grace and an expertise that I think is rare at a volunteer level. But Issam Najm, who is now the president of the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, has a depth of knowledge as an engineer himself of what's actually going on here, but also a poise about him that I think has made him a very credible counterparty in these negotiations. So we appreciate you being here. Please say a few words if you would.
Thank you, and I do have a few words to say. Congressman Sherman, Senator Stern, Assembly Member Gabriel, and Senator Hertzberg. On behalf of the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, I want to thank you for being here today and for all the work that you do on behalf of our community and for your continued work in supporting us. The Neighborhood Council is working on specific and detailed set of comments that we will be submitting to the California Air Resources Board by September 12th. While we are encouraged by the fact that a meaningful health study will be funded and a fence line monitoring system will be in place, we do have many unanswered questions about how these programs will be managed and implemented. But we are also disappointed that the agreement lacks any vision towards reducing the need for natural gas in the LA Basin.
Yes.
If CARB is genuinely interested in implementing the governor's directive to close this facility down by 2027, we would like to know why this settlement lacks any measures towards that end. We would also like to remind CARB that the 109,000 metric tons of gas that they plan on capturing from dairy operations in the Central Valley over the span of 10 years were actually released into our community over a short period of 4 months. Yet the agreement lacks any effort for environmental mitigation right here in the San Fernando Valley. And by the way, this facility behind us leaks the same amount of methane every day as any of the dairy operations that are listed in the settlement agreement. Think about that. Think about that. This is the equivalent of a dairy operation right here.
Right behind us.
So let me close by saying that the Neighborhood Council will continue to work diligently on behalf of our community. But our course is clear and our cause is just. There is no conclusion to this debacle other than the removal of this menace from our community. And the Neighborhood Council will continue to work with the state, county, and city on achieving the goal of permanently closing down this facility. Thank you.
And now I want to introduce someone who needs no introduction to those of you who've been following this. Matt Pakucko, the leader of Save Porter Ranch, who's been fearless since the beginning, unafraid to make people a little uncomfortable, to push the envelope because his family and his community is at risk. So Matt, please come up and say a few words, as only you can do.
Thanks everybody for coming out today. My name is Matt Pakucko. I live right behind, sorry, I wasn't prepared to speak. I live right behind that hill right behind us, so yeah, I was pretty affected. I don't want to repeat everything that they said. They said it very well. I agree with everything. This community is pretty tired of being kicked around.
Yep.
And now this time by our own elected officials, present company excluded. Talking about Mayor Garcetti, Supervisor Barger, and AG Becerra, who worked this deal.
Yes.
They've done nothing to prevent this from happening again. Now, they've actually given some of this settlement money right back to SoCalGas's projects up in the Central Valley. I mean,
Yep.
seriously?
Really?
Not much left over for the victims. Yeah, we know what a health study is going to find. We already know what it's going to find, but we get nothing after that. And while they're going to be cleaning up other parts of the state, they've allowed nothing for cleaning up the directly contaminated community. That's a problem. I don't want to hear Garcetti and the other city people talking about, hey, we don't have jurisdiction. Garcetti, you're the mayor of the second biggest megapolis in the United States. 20 of those wells sit on city property. Certainly you can come up with something better than this crap deal that you brokered.
Yeah.
Now, we're really glad that Senator Stern, Assemblyman Gabriel, Mr. Sherman are actually trying to do something where all these other people have failed to do anything. Thank you very much for all that. And while we're at it, I guess you're a good person to say, what about that Senate Oversight Committee hearing about SoCalGas' entire operations?
Well, I'm joining up.
Shut it all down! 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 Shut it all down!
Shut it all down.
I think you know what this community wants, but I wanted to open this up to questions. I will add one note that we do have legislation prepared in Sacramento ready to introduce next week in the final weeks of session here. If they do not take our comments into consideration during the normal course of order, we'll force the issue by passing a bill. And we have a diverse coalition of legislators stepping up. This is not just a matter of the San Fernando Valley. We have co-authors and supporters from all up and down this state, including the Central Valley. Environmental justice is indivisible. What happened to this community happens to other communities, and there is no way to divide us. Anyone who tries to say the Valley is a bunch of upper middle class people who don't deserve justice, and that the only focus in this state ought to be in other communities, aren't paying attention to the reality on the ground, because there are hardworking people who try to get their kids to school every day, who grind it out, and they deserve this too. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions for any of the participants here today. Yes, sir.
As far as the health study goes, since this leak, my wife and 2 children have been diagnosed with lupus. And benzene is known to trigger some of these things. What help do I get? I've got hospital bills, doctor bills, the stress of it all.
What's your name, sir?
Rich.
Rich. Those of you who couldn't hear on the mic, Rich's wife and daughter were recently diagnosed with lupus.
Wife and 2 kids are battling.
And benzene, a known carcinogen, which we've detected at elevated levels here since that leak, is a known trigger for that very threatening condition. This public health study, let's be clear, as Assembly Member Gabriel said, that's a win. $25 million. Now, it's not enough to fully fund the health study that we all deserve, but I know Supervisor Barger worked incredibly hard on that piece, and I want to commend her for pushing that $25 million through, because I guarantee you the gas company did not want that public health study happening, because they are going to be held liable if they fail to disclose what chemicals they emitted in our community. In court, we have a bill moving to the Senate floor this week to mandate disclosure of chemicals that are currently not required by law, but that won't help bring your family any justice because it's already happened. All I can say to you is you've got to take this to court. you've got to pursue the levers of justice in that regard. We've got your back, but I don't have a good answer for you and your daughters and your wife, and that's why we're here, because you deserve those answers, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But we'll keep fighting for you. Anyone else?
Yes.
Other questions?
Yes.
Let's go to just the press real quick first. Did you guys have any clarifications folks needed? Seems like we got a question from our
Yes,
audience here. Yes,
I
ma'am.
would like to just say that I've lived here 6 years. I have no family history of cancer, and I was just diagnosed with breast cancer. So,
Sorry, ma'am.
yes, so what does that say?
I'm sorry.
I was relocated because I developed asthma during that period of time. Never had asthma in my whole entire life. So these people have got to be stopped. I could be dead in 5 years or less because of that leak. I am going through surgery. I have to do chemo. I have to do radiation. It isn't fair that people and Brown and his sister and all the monies that they have and they're getting can affect my life. I've worked all my life, and it's just totally unacceptable.
Can I ask the folks here today, how many people had to leave their homes when these wells blew out? And how many people got sick here when these wells blew out? So anyone out there who tells you everything is fine and that natural gas is natural and that this invisible disaster is actually just that, it's invisible, and that we're just all hype, look at these people standing behind me today who've suffered. I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry.
How many people are still sick?
How many people are still
How
sick?
many people still have symptoms?
Yes! My father,
So-
yes! Yes!
For you.
Yes, sir.
David Balin, Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, community support in every absence. I sit on the board over at Porter Ranch Community School.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any plans to protect our children at Castle Bay or Porter Ranch Community? They were subjected to high levels of benzene for a long period of time before we shut the school down. Do we plan on testing these children?
Yes, that is absolutely the goal of this public health study. And frankly, we still don't know what the long-term effects will
Of
be,
course.
David. And I'm scared, and I have no answers for you right now because all of this has been done in secret.
Of course.
Those chemicals, they said it was just methane that leaked out.
No.
But this is,
Captains, you've got, it goes on
and this
on.
oil field that originally was here had heavy metals and other chemicals in it that predated this gas field. And what else emitted out? Because if you all remember, when they tried to plug it, there was that burp. They called it a burp, right? And it shot those chemicals into the sky and coated our playgrounds and coated there was barium in people's couches. You know, kids are in school without air filters. David, I can't give you a good answer of what's going to happen, but I promise you those kids will be thoroughly tested, that they will go through this process, and hopefully we'll finally get to the bottom of this mess.
We'll work together and get to the bottom.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, Congressman, please.
As to those with health problems, nothing in terms of money really compensates people for life and death. There are lawsuits going on now where people are trying to establish that their health problems are a result of this leak. And then this study will come forward and provide additional evidence. And so even if suits are not successful now, they may be brought in the future when the additional evidence is there. So I look forward to this health study. My family's health is dependent upon these filters that we stuck in the living room. And I hope that this isn't as harmful as it might have been. But I look forward to getting to the bottom of this.
Just from on this facility, using it as a trading strategy to swap out energy markets and play games with our community. You know, we can afford to move past Aliso Canyon. They'll tell you otherwise, but a renewable energy future where we can get hundreds of megawatts battery electric storage, solar power, and clean energy, truly clean energy. That's how we move past this. We can achieve 100% renewable energy future. There is legislation pending now, and we won't stop until that's done. But I guarantee you it's going to be a fight, because there's a lot of money in that gas. And hundreds of millions of dollars, by the way, in a high compression turbine that they installed during the leak while it was shut down. They hustled the job through to install this turbine that all ratepayers, not just those in the valley, anyone in Southern California who pays a gas bill is paying the cost of upgrading this facility that should be shut down. So if you're a ratepayer in the city of Los Angeles, you're paying for this right now. You're not getting those benefits either, and you should be just as frustrated as everyone here in the San Fernando Valley.
You've asked us to summarize the arguments of Southern California Gas, and I'll do that because I've listened to them a lot. They say that in order to have the natural gas heat our homes, cook our food, and generate the electricity that we need for our lights and air conditioning, that you need to bring in gas from outside the area, and that you need to be able to store it somewhere in the Los Angeles area. And that you'll continue to need to do that until we move to a future that isn't reliant on fossil fuels. But they haven't lifted a finger to solve that underlying problem. They have not lifted a finger to move us away from fossil fuels, nor have they lifted a finger to store natural gas anywhere else in the Southern California area. This facility is too big to fail, and they keep it that way. So they'll tell you you can't shut it down today, because where will we get the natural gas we're going to use tonight and tomorrow? But then you ask, well, why didn't you do something a year ago so that you could shut down any facility that was a health problem or a safety problem, or even for inspection, even a temporary shutdown? And they say, well, we didn't do anything then, but we're not going to shut it down now. And we're not going to do anything today that would allow us to shut it down tomorrow. They use the prospect of being without natural gas and being without electricity in order to terrorize the great metropolitan area into saying you need to keep this facility going. And in order to keep their weapon of terror, they don't do anything that would allow us to shut this facility down or even to reduce the pressures of the gas that are underneath. If we're going to store natural gas, it can't be in just one place for the entire LA area and then be told that the facility has to keep operating even during a methane leak, because otherwise the whole city goes dark. It's too big to fail, it's too big to exist, and this settlement does nothing to create a circumstance where we aren't reliant upon this facility next month and next year.
Their argument smells like cow farts.
Last question.
Should the CPUC be held accountable to follow through with everything you just described?
Absolutely. And to make sure that the costs, and they were close to $1 billion, of the 8,000 families is not passed through to consumers. And likewise, I know most of those costs are insured, but when you have $1 billion, you have a little automobile accident, your insurance rates go up. You have like a little history-defining methane leak with $1 billion in costs.
You get subsidies.
Your insurance rates go up. We've got to make sure that any increase in insurance costs going into the future that are a result of the negligence that happened up here are not passed through to consumers around the Los Angeles area.
We'll wrap it up here.
When is it okay for the CPUC to try to retaliate against individual citizens when they know that there are ruptured transmission lines that are a hazard to the public, and they failed to do anything about it for over a year to shut the gas off of a massive high-pressure gas leak on private property, but the city attorney decides to try to retaliate and intimidate individual citizens by working in collusion with SoCalGas.
Right.
Yeah.
When is that okay?
Doesn't sound okay, man, but we'll be looking into that. I hadn't heard that issue, but I will tell you the three massive gas lines that they decided to take offline and go through repairs conveniently all at the same time to basically conjure up a crisis, to create a crisis, a false crisis. This is the market manipulation that we've seen for too long in this state. Seen it through the energy crisis, and it ends here today. Folks, we're going to continue this fight. Thank you all for being here today. We're not going to rest.